we're going to need about 1,000 milliliters or about 32 ounces. Now typically this is going to be equal parts A and B on your flotation foams. And we've got a video here on the channel we did back a number of months ago that went into a lot of detail. But this will be the first time on the channel that we've actually poured the flotation foam in an actual working boat. Now we're going to another larger container. Doesn't matter if you pour the A or the B portion first. Do not want this stuff on your hands. Do not want it in your eyes. You really don't want it in your lungs either. We got a big open shop here with plenty of airflow, but if you were at home, you should be wearing a respirator to do this. Let's go with a good mix with a drill. Round and round, back and forth. Probably like 30 to 45 seconds to mix time. I'm going to reverse the rotation. Good mix is very important. Going to sling it out. Always have a acetone bucket here. We're going to drop that mixer off in the bucket. Let that soak. Now we've got about 30 or 45 seconds before this really starts to take off. We're going for it. There we go. Get it right up in the corners. I like to make some little strips of the dowel blue board, kind of as like a little spatula. We spilt a little bit there. You can move it over into the compartment or area you're going to be working. Important to clean your bucket. Get as much of that as you can. So we've got a plywood form here with some tape. We've got some ledgers on the side of the boat. And maybe my cameraman can focus on that. We've got some of that foam residue, and if we don't deal with it pretty fast, it's going to become a problem. It's going to become part of the container, and we'll never be able to get it off of there. I would recommend you wear a respirator if you're doing this, but the acetone will knock it down no problem. And if you're new to the channel, I'd like to welcome you. My name is Joe Buskins. I'm a second generation professional boat builder, a 100-ton licensed captain. This is our family's boat shop. That is our 29-footer that we built here in our family's boat shop that we run in our charter operation during the summer months. So welcome everybody. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna climb back up in the boat while we've got this foam expanding. You can see it has come right out to the end of our fill board, but we need to give that just a little while to set or cure. And I want to talk about the things we did prior to that. Now obviously you can see we cut out a piece of plywood that's approximately 3 feet long, and we got a couple inches extra so that we can span our stringers. And I have found that by forming the foam rather than just freehand pouring it, you're going to get a better job. You may also notice that we put some little dams or petitions. That's some of the dowel blue board, and we just use a little hot glue gun to stick that into place. But another thing that we did, you notice we had a nice edge or some ledgers there that we could rest our sheet or a form on. And what we did is we took a 2x4 prior to getting ready for all this, and basically you can see we marked or scribed a line all the way around the edge of the boat, and then we cut some little pieces of Coosa board, and we used some of the vinyl ester, the fiberglass warehouse structural repair putty for sticking these little pieces of Coosa. We just dabbed them onto the side, a little bit of putty, stuck them, and then made sure that they were in line with the tops of these two stringers and let that material set. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes or so, and this stuff has firmed up nicely. And let's see if we can get a, oh yeah, look at that. Nearly perfect. I would say that looks pretty good. We got a few little pieces of residual foam, but because we wrapped this piece of wood in the packing tape and we put some mold release wax on it. So that's all we did, folks. That's your standard Scotch tape. And I just stripped this thing, wrapped it around. Pretty important, I think, to go with some mold release wax. Now this is available through Fiberglass Warehouse. Fiberglass Warehouse has the A and B port foam. They have the vinyl ester structural filler. They have the mold release wax. Anything and everything you're gonna need for a project like this. Be sure to use your FISHBUMPTV discount code to save some money as well. You can pour this kind of like what I call freehand. As a matter of fact, I have an example over here where I just poured some and just kind of winged it a little bit. But then you've got to come back with something like a handsaw, and you're going to have to basically get in there and trim some excess material off, or this is kind of what we've been doing in this area back here. Anytime we have any big high lumps or bumps, I really like this big Makita. It's a variable speed, but you can run it really, really slow, and it does a nice job. Like say, for example, that lump right there. They kind of surface that a little bit. I had a lot of questions and comments last week. We did a video where we were putting our rigging tube in and trying to figure out how to answer all the comments for everybody. Kind of want to prioritize it. So I figured out a way. I'm going to say a keyword somewhere within the video, and if you use that keyword in your comment, I will prioritize your comment for you and try to answer your question as best you can. So hang in somewhere within the video. Going to have a keyword for you folks and try to help answer some of your questions. But I had a number of folks were asking, what are we using the rigging pipe for? How do we know how big to make it? And just to clarify, this is for the motor wiring, hydraulic steering and controls and whatnot. We're not going to be running any water or fluid through there, although all these connections are going to be watertight. And when we installed this, there is some pitch or fall to these pipes, so that if any water ever gets in these, it's going to run to the back and then empty into the bilge area. And then all we've done, like right here, is we've used, again, the vinyl ester structural putty to just tab it into place. And we're going to be pouring this foam all around it, and then we're going to be fiberglassing it around the deck. About an hour ago, we poured this back section, and I wanted to try something a little different. I actually haven't tried using the Dow Blue board, but I did the same deal. I put some tape on it. And there you go, just perfect. If you're working with a boat with a similar setup to ours, where you've got two stringers on either side, I would recommend pouring all the outermost stations, because if you pour the inner ones and it's over full, it's hard to get your mold down flat and level, and it's also a lot harder to trim. If this section is full, it's hard to get in there and trim the outer section. Very important to remember not to let the saw get a bow or belly in it and cut too low. I would cut high and then use something like this Makita. Matter of fact, I'll be sure to put this in our Amazon store. We've got links to like all the tools we use and supplies and whatnot below our video's description. Very, very nice Amazon store. You could use something like this big Hutchins air file as well to sand that nice and flush, or you could just use a block, like a piece of 2x4 with some sandpaper on it. I mean, there's a lot of options. We're using some of the Orca shimmer and just a nice circular motion. I have found that like we did on the previous part, that the materials will still release from just the tape, but I'm using the same piece over and over again, and I find that after like 1 or 2 releases, sometimes it may start to stick. So if I wax this tape surface over and over again, I can get multiple pulls and multiple releases while we're waiting for that wax to cure, which typically takes about 5 or 10 minutes for it to haze over. Anybody that needs my direct help or consulting work, Patreon is the way to do that. I mentioned a few minutes ago that I've been getting a lot of people reach out to me with questions and projects they're working on, and obviously we're just super busy between our project boat, running charters, and then actual paying repairs and work we're doing here in the shop. So Patreon is a way for you to set up some time to be able to work with me, and you can send me pictures of your actual project boat and ask me questions, and I can work you through it. This is a larger batch that we're pouring up. Got 1,500 milliliters and 1,750, so we're right there between like 1,625, or that is about 56 ounces. So we're gonna be filling a larger compartment this time, and based on my experience pouring this foam, we kind of got a roundabout idea where to be. And for you folks at home, haven't done it before, you can expect this foam to expand at a rate of around 25 to 30 to 1. So if you had like 1 gallon of foam, 1 gallon of liquid foam is going to produce about 25 to 30 gallons of expanded foam. And this is the 2-pound density flotation foam, which is what you want to use. And it's required by the Coast Guard. A lot of people wonder, why do you put foam in these boats in the first place? Because sometimes it gets waterlogged after a floor gets rotten. But boat builders like myself and our family are required in boats under 22 feet to have full foam flotation. So that's why it's in there. On our 29-footer, when we were building that, because it's over 22 feet, it's got airtight chambers underneath the floor, and that way if we ever have an emergency situation, at least we got some reserve there. But it also adds a lot of strength. A lot of people are curious about that. This material is surprisingly tough, and it adds a lot of rigidity to the hull. So if your boat came with it originally, you probably should think about putting it back in there. Now when we talk about expansion rates, temperature has a lot to do with that. Right now we are dealing with 23 degrees Celsius or almost 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is almost ideal for this stuff. Mid to high 70s is kind of where they set all the guidelines and specs for it. But you're going to want to be sure you want a 2-pound density closed cell pour foam. And I've found that the foam from Fiberglass Warehouse is as good as any I've ever used. It's very dense, it's got a controllable expansion rate, and it's easy to sand and work with if you need to do a little bit of trimming. So here we go. Since we're doing a bigger batch this time, folks, I'm going with a bigger bucket so that we've got a little more room to work. I think your bucket, your main bucket should be probably about twice as big as the total volume of the A and B part foam that you're going to be using. So you want to leave yourself some wiggle room there. You don't want to go cut it too tight. You're going to want to use a drill. You can use a paddle, but it doesn't work as good. It doesn't work as fast, and I wouldn't recommend it. Now I have found that pouring this foam from the top edge and letting it run down seems to be the better way to do it. Remember, we can use our little dowel board sticks to get all the goodie out of there. We don't want to waste any of this. We don't want to waste any of this stuff. And some people have used something like dowel board or even sheets. You can buy sheet foam, and I like it because, see, you can do something like that. You can corral it back in if you get a little bit of spill, and it's completely okay to just put it right in the mix. Look at this stuff. Look at this stuff go there, folks. It's kind of exciting and fun to see it. I tell people it's like an explosion in slow motion. It takes a surprising amount of weight. You would not believe how much this can lift, and that's why I'm not a real big advocate of people putting in your stringers, putting the floor in, and then drilling holes and pouring the foam through it. If you get your calculations wrong, it can actually lift the floor up, or it can bulge the sides and the bottom of your boat out, and that is not good. All right, folks, a much smaller pour this time. We're only doing about 16 ounces or right around 500 milliliters, and that's probably going to be more than we need for this space. I'm actually going to it might over pour just a little bit. I want to show y'all what can be done or what you can do if you mix up a little too much, and some other techniques while we're making it through the video, folks. I keep thinking of little ideas, so I've got a couple more little tricks, and I still have not said the keyword or the phrase of the day yet, so bear that in mind. Be ready for it. Want to be sure we get good thorough mix. You do not want this on your clothes though. Probably not a bad idea to wear a Tyvek suit or some old painting clothes, something that you don't mind getting a little bit of something on. All right, here we go. Again, I'm just going to pour it out to the edge and let it run back, but you can still manage it and control it if you need to. There's some techniques. See if I can get this pretty close. Get a nice even pour. Y'all can see what I mean. If you let it start to expand a little bit, and then I had a little bit here on this edge, y'all can see on that pour there was a little bit of a gap, so it is okay to come back in there, fill that a smidge. Now I want y'all's opinion on something. I've seen some videos and heard of people doing this. Now y'all have seen me during this pour use the little sticks and just stick them, you know, back into the foam, which is completely fine. That's that EXP expandable foam that is completely compatible and works. But I have actually seen people, to get more volume, they will take empty containers, like even like Gatorade containers, and they would stick them in there and maybe even use like your old pour foam, and they basically would pour some foam, stick it in there, and then pour the foam around it to increase the volume. Now, I don't know about that, folks. If I were buying a boat or paying somebody to do that, I don't know if I'd want to do it. But if you're on a really tight budget, or say you bought some foam and you don't know if you have quite enough, that might be an option to expand, you know, what you got. Now, one thing I feel 100% comfortable about is taking some trimmings from your foam you've been pouring. Like if you have some excess here, you could trim that off, and then you could put this down in the trough and pour the foam around it, and that would be completely 100% acceptable. And I was also even thinking, when we did the demo on this boat, the foam in this boat was actually in pretty darn good shape, and in hindsight, I had some big chunks that we took out that I could have set off to the side, kept it nice and dry, and then actually placed it back in and poured foam around it to be able to save a little bit of money there. So always thinking about you DIYers at home, and what we can do to make things better, faster, easier for you folks. And this is a good time to ask everybody, if you are enjoying the channel, it helps us greatly. Subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend, give us a thumbs up and all that good stuff. Here we go, folks. Look at there. Aha! Look at that. Amazing. Now, remember, like we just did, I can always come back and pour a little more foam around there, and you can see how that encapsulates that PVC and makes it crazy strong. And brings me to maybe the key word of the day. The phrase of the day is going to be structural putty. So structural putty, and then your comment, and I will put priority on that, as trying to comment and respond and answer your questions as best I can. So I hope y'all found this entertaining. We tried to pack as much information. Y'all helped this video go viral. That long watch duration. Share, comment, again, tell a friend. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. That encourages us and allows us to do more of these videos. Captain Joe here, Island Marine Charters, FISHBUMPTV. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes as my amazing cameraman. And we'll catch you in the next episode.